Ready? Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
To start, thank you everyone who's joined here today to learn more about the One Pill Can Kill initiative. I'm honored to stand with Attorney General Griffin and echo his concerns on the drug fentanyl and its ability not only to destroy lives, but to take lives. I'm glad to see our students, staff, and faculty ready to attend workshops and learn how we can prevent a tragedy here at SAU. Fentanyl itself is 50 to 100 times more potent than heroin and can be added to pills without any prior knowledge. The One Pill Kill initiative is vital to Arkansas, to Southern Arkansas University, as no community is really safe from harm, and any death related to this drug would be one too many. To understand the issue, you can look at some of the trends. 2023, fentanyl and other synthetic opioids were involved in over 52% of total drug overdoses in Arkansas. Naloxone, or Narcan, access is something that Arkansas law now requires as a co-prescription with any high-dose opioid that you might get from the doctor, and to ensure its availability on high school and college campuses. That has really worked to reduce the number of deaths and overdoses. With the support of the Attorney General, Southern Arkansas University is fully committed to educating and equipping our community to confront this challenge head-on. We believe prevention begins with knowledge, and action begins with preparation. Through this initiative, we are providing students with the tools they need to recognize the dangers of fentanyl, respond to emergencies, and to look out for one another. As this effort expands to colleges and universities throughout Arkansas, its impact will grow exponentially. Together, we can deliver life-saving knowledge and resources to thousands of young Arkansanians, and take meaningful steps towards protecting our future. So, thank you to the Attorney General and to this work across Arkansas. We're proud to be your partner.
Thank you.
And so,
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you all for having me back. I don't know if I need this. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to walk around there, but I see a camera, and it's going to have a hard time tracking me if I do that. So let me tell you sort of how we got here. So I think most people understand that we've had an opioid addiction problem in this country for a long time. The awareness that people have about the dangers of opioids and opioid addiction and the books that have been written about it and this general discussion in the national consciousness, this narrative about opioids, mostly has dealt with prescription drug opioids. Prescription drug opioids really started impacting the country over 10 years ago and 15 years ago maybe. Our Vice President of the United States, Vance, became famous writing a book, telling the story of folks in West Virginia who were addicted to opioids and the availability of opioids and the problem. So this has been a national problem for a long time, particularly as it relates to prescription opioids. So opioids are a class of drugs that can be very helpful when used properly, when used in consultation with healthcare professionals. But for a long time, those same prescription drugs that can be helpful were overprescribed by healthcare professionals, were pushed by the manufacturers and others. And so the country sort of started to grapple with this problem because of the extraordinary number of deaths. And the South was particularly hard hit, in rural areas, particularly hard hit. Now, these are prescriptions, so these are coming from factories where they're prescription grade. So the drug itself is what it represents to be, a pharmaceutical grade drug. The problem was that they were being overused, overprescribed, right? So as a result of this huge national crisis, we ended up with a lot of litigation, a lot of lawsuits, particularly by attorneys general, even before I came into office. And we started to come to grips with this. So doctors and healthcare professionals started to get more training and they became more aware of the dangers of opioid addiction. A lot of the companies and doctors who pushed opioids and shouldn't have, they were held accountable or are being held accountable, many of them. And so this is all relating to prescription drug opioids. And I'm talking oxycodone, Oxycontin, those type of things. Now, my brother passed away in March of last year, about a half a mile from here. He had a long battle with opioids, prescription drug opioids. Because of back surgery that went bad, he basically lived with depending on oxycodone for years. And it just, over time, destroyed him. And it was because of that pain. So that's prescription drug. So why am I talking a lot about prescription? Because they're still useful and they're still addictive and they're still deadly, but now we have a new problem. And that's the illicit opioids, meaning not prescription, not made in a pharmaceutical grade factory, but they're still opioids and they're far more deadly. So let me tell you generally what happened. As we start to get our arms around the prescription drug opioid problem, the supply of those opioids got tighter, more restricted, because doctors were being more thoughtful about prescribing the opioids. And the companies and others who were more lax about pushing them and getting them into the market, they are more controlled now. A lot of that's because of the lawsuits. So my office won $140 million for the state of Arkansas as a result of a settlement with a lot of these companies. And we still have ongoing litigation on this. That money is doing this right here, right? That money has to be used for opioid abatement. I gave $50 million of it to Children's Hospital. We're starting the National Center for Opioid Research in Little Rock. So as we got our arms around the prescription drug problem and started to tighten the supply, there were still a lot of people who wanted opioids. So what do you do when the supply is restricted, but a lot of people still have demand for it? Well, guess who steps in? Criminals. Criminals. So now what you have is illicit. You have illicit opioids being manufactured, primarily fentanyl, which is extremely deadly, harmful. And as you heard the doctor talk about, it's 50 times more addictive than heroin. And so what's happening now is the Chinese are pushing fentanyl, the base ingredients, south of our border to Mexico. The illicit drugs are then made in Mexico and shipped into the U.S. on the streets, just like other street drugs. Now, there's all kinds of problems with that. First of all, you have no idea what's in the final product. Why don't you know? Well, let's go back to what I said earlier. The prescription drug opioids were deadly if misused. But we still knew that they were made in a pharmaceutical lab, right? If you take enough oxycodone, it can kill you. But when you look at the oxycodone pill, you know, assuming you got it through the appropriate channels, you know it is what it says it is. So if you took one oxycodone pill, you know you took one pharmaceutical grade oxycodone pill. And you're not going to die because of some unknown ingredient that's in there. You're not going to die because it's laced with fentanyl. It was made in a prescription drug manufacturing facility. The new problem we have with the illicit fentanyl, as opposed to the prescription, is you have no idea what it is. When we say that the Chinese are sending the base ingredients to fentanyl south of the border to be manufactured into deliverable drugs, we don't mean manufactured in a place where you drive up and there's hundreds of cars and people are in sanitary suits and they're doing what pharmaceutical companies do. No, that's not what we're talking about. They're using whatever ingredients they can, including chalk, including drywall, anything they can use to make a pill. And then they put the fentanyl in there. And so you have no idea what you're taking. You don't know if it's a little bit of fentanyl that'll get you really addicted, or if it's a lot that will kill you with one pill. And that's where one pill can kill comes from. The big problem now goes beyond the problem we had before. Before, it was a matter of managing how much people are prescribed and take. Now, we don't even know what it is, right? We know it's fentanyl, but you don't know whether a pill that looks legit is legit. Someone gives you something at a party, it could be your last breath. You have no idea. Because this stuff is made by people who don't care about you. Now, why would they want to kill off all their customers? Well, it's complicated. What the drug dealers are most interested in is getting you addicted to buy more. And fentanyl will do that. But what China's interested in, and this is not some random theory, you can research this. This is called gray zone warfare. China is pushing the stuff so that more Americans die. This has been well covered in the press. They do not allow fentanyl in China, but they've given tax credits to companies who ship it to Mexico to come in here. They are able to kill tens of thousands of young Americans without pulling a trigger. Okay? So this is really dangerous, deadly stuff. So why are we targeting universities, two-year colleges and universities and other schools with this message? That's not the age group, maybe 18 to 35 is not the only age group, but it is the age group where people are trying things, experimenting, being very social at parties. People offer pills. And after, when you're sober, you may say, would never take a pill. I didn't know what it was from some random person. But after you're, half a bottle in of whiskey or something, there's a lot of stuff you'll do that you wouldn't have done when you were sober. And sometimes people will offer pills off the streets. People take it and they never wake up. And that's where the whole one pill can kill concept came from, because it's based on reality. I had a campaign worker some years ago. He was a fraternity kid at the University of Arkansas, good-looking young kid, great grades from Little Rock, and he's dead. He started, I think, with Adderall to stay up, which led to other stuff, and ended up addicted to illicit opioids, and he took some and never woke up. And so this is a real problem. So in my last 10 minutes, I've mentioned my brother who died of prescription drug opioids and a campaign worker who died of illicit opioids that he started taking as a fraternity member at the University of Arkansas on a college campus. This is a real thing. So, with the money that we've gotten from settlements, we're attacking this problem in 3 ways. So, the first component, which is most of the reason that we're here, is to raise awareness, right? So, information, knowledge, awareness. If people know, the theory is, or the facts are, that they are less likely to engage in this sort of behavior if they know. It doesn't mean they won't, but they are less likely the more you equip people with information. Because at that party when that pill comes out, if they're thinking, do I want to die tonight? They're probably going to be less likely to take the pill. Now, there will be some people who didn't get the message who make the mistake. But generally speaking, we're in a better place if we can inform with facts and educate, right? So the first part of our approach to this problem is awareness, raising awareness, which is what this is all about. That's why we have the shirts, that's why we have the signs, that's why we do press, that's why we do social media, etc. The second part of it is treatment. And that component is for people who made the mistake, who actually tried it, and who are either dying and are administered Narcan to save their lives, right? To save their life. Or they're addicted and they're not dying today, but they're on their way there if we don't get them help. Either because over time their body will degrade, or they'll grab that one pill that's it. That magic pill that kills them. Right? So treatment means awareness didn't totally work and they tried it anyway. They made that mistake and they need help. That's the treatment component. And so we do all sorts of things on that. We pay for people who can't afford to go in a treatment facility, inpatient or outpatient. The $50 million that my office gave, that I gave to Children's Hospital, is about treating, researching, finding out all that we can about babies who had addicted mothers, and whether there's something that we need to know to make their life better, to ensure that they're not addicted through no fault of their own. We're studying teenagers and things that teenagers start with, like Adderall, how that can be tied to other addictions. So that's the treatment part. And that's a part of why we're here. We're not just here for awareness. You're going to go, or the students will go later. I think we've got about 100 signed up, and they'll get some training on how to apply Narcan, how to save lives, what to look out for, what to do, the importance of maybe sticking a Narcan in your purse or whatever, even in your jacket. They're small enough to fit right there when you're going to a particular event. Because we have stories of individuals saving lives because they had a Narcan with them and somebody made a mistake and it was going to kill them, but for the Narcan. So The treatment component is part of why we're here as well. Awareness, raise awareness, but be ready if people don't listen and try it, right? And then the third category, so you have information or awareness, treatment, and the third category is law enforcement, right? It's not why we're here today. It's not really a part of One Pill Can Kill, but we are very active, obviously, with the state police, with the federal authorities in working on this problem from a criminal perspective. And we have tightened up, strengthened the laws that we have in the state, because as threats like this develop, we have to change. When I started as AG, we did not have a fentanyl statute that deals with this issue. We did not have that. And so we started drafting that before I got elected, and then after I got elected in the first legislative session, we fixed that. And so basically we treat people who distribute fentanyl as murderers under the statute that we came up with. So there's three components. And I appreciate you all being here today and being a part of the solution. What we're really counting on, you're never going to have all the students in a meeting like this or in training. What you want is what we call in the military a force multiplier. You want someone who's going to go out and talk and tell and teach and mentor. That's why we try to get student leaders, people who are respected, people who are leading groups, people who are leading student groups, clubs, sororities, fraternities, whatever. We try to get student leaders who can have an impact beyond themselves, right? So that's really the key to this. So I appreciate y'all being here. I know they're going to have great training over there. They're going to have food, which is always good. Pizza, I think. And so maybe you'll get more people now. I don't know, now that you know it's pizza. It is pizza, right? Yeah. So Chickadilly, I don't know. Backyard barbecue, Marlar's. Now, if I come by your deal, I'm going to Marlar's on the way out of town, so you can't stay too long. Anyway, so I appreciate y'all being here. This is great. Thank the doctor for having me. Is there y'all have any questions for me? See there? So clear, no questions. Perfect. You know I graduated from Magnolia High. Who knew that? Who did not know that? Well, come on. Y'all didn't know it's from Magnolia? Oh, come on. How would I know all those restaurants if I wasn't from Magnolia? Yes, ma'am. Tell me your name. Yeah, in 1980. My dad changed that place, didn't he? Oh, where is it? He lives in Dallas. So he was do you have his number? I need to look him up. He was the youth minister, music director when I moved there. And that would have been February of 1980, or about February of 1980. 86. Yeah. Well, you graduated in 96, I can tell. Sometimes I wear a stethoscope too. I told my wife this morning, I said, I'm going to start wearing a stethoscope. Because I'm always giving medical advice. I'm sure it's good. Anyway, okay. Anything else? Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate it. And the more people you can get I think it's across the hall there, the better. The more education we can get people, the better. So thank y'all. Appreciate it very much. I'm going to go by with you, and then we're going to Marlar's. Okay. If Marlar's is even open. Y'all have a good one.